Welcome to today's community showcase, everyone. We're excited to have you. I'm excited to be joining you and hosting today's session. If you haven't already, make sure you let us know in the chat where you're joining from. Maybe tell us what the weather is like. The seasons are changing. Um, I know, well, it's probably raining in Manchester. In Dallas, ironically, it's also rainy, so that's new. It's normally sunny. I am excited today because we have two really special ambassadors, and we have one fairly new Wakelet certified trainer that's going to be joining me. And I've already previewed their collections. And I'm telling you, you're in for a treat. They have some really great ways to utilize Wakelet in your school, in your classroom, and really just overall. So I'm going to have Rachel come up and join me. Welcome, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing good, Tisha. How are you doing?
Great. I always love learning from you. So I'm really excited to have you today. Can you tell everybody where you're joining from, kind of what your background is, your role, and maybe something that you're passionate about?
Sure. So my name is Rachel Madrano, and I come from South Texas, near Corpus Christi. I work for Robstown ISD, and I am their coordinator of instructional technology. I've been in this role for the past 5 years, and I'm truly passionate about instructional technology. And I always tell people that I love building the technology confidence in my staff, because as we know, technology can be very intimidating, very scary, and so my goal is just to help build it little by little so that they feel good about it.
That is, I think that's the best advice ever. What is your take on AI? How are your teachers feeling about AI, and where is their confidence level with that right now?
So I think they're at a curiosity level. Of course, AI has dominated the news. The We're seeing some of the negative sides of AI, of course, with some of the celebrities that have been involved. But at the same time, they're still curious of how they can use it in their classroom effectively and how it can help them. And so it's been fun to see some of our leaders, even our assistant superintendent, pulling up chat gpt and other tools during meetings and talking about how she's used that tool to help translate documents, to help even come up with session titles for our conferences, to do just to help ease her job or just get more ideas from what's happening and what needs to be accomplished.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I follow this trend. I follow all the trends in education and ed tech, very much like you. And we were using AI before, and I always find it interesting. I saw Matt Miller post something this week about some district using red light, yellow light, green light for their AI use with students and teachers. And I thought it was interesting because he made a great point. A lot of our students and teachers were already using AI and maybe weren't actually aware. Grammarly was something I was using before. There's lots of things out there. So I think it's interesting. And I think, like anything else, there needs to be a level of awareness around AI. And that way we can kind of guide those teachers. So, what you all don't know out there while you are watching Rachel and I have this discussion is that we are waiting on our other speaker, Laura Steinbrink. If you are not familiar with Laura, she has been in education for, what did she tell us yesterday, Rachel?
29
29 years.
years.
Yeah, I knew she was hitting that 30 mark. And if you don't know about her, we are actually going to share her Twitter account and her Wakelet account, as well as Rachel, so that you can follow both of them. And they have some really interesting things to share with you. And again, I was so excited when I got to see their collection. So, Rachel, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions because I know you're going to be talking about this a little bit later, but I think we can set some things up while we're waiting on Laura to join. Those of you out there, I want to ask you this question before I ask Rachel, because I know what Rachel knows and I know pretty much what she's going to say about this. But I want to know out there, how are you guys feeling about formative assessment? What are your best formative assessment ideas? Did you always know about formative assessment? I say that because I don't really remember, Rachel, when I was in school to be a teacher. I don't remember a professor actually talking to me about formative assessment, something I learned along the way and the benefits of it. Um, and so I want to know if you have some really great formative assessment tips. Rachel, what is your best formative assessment tip?
So we had this conversation yesterday, and formative assessment does not have to happen at the end of the unit or end of the day. The best thing to do about formative assessment is actually doing it throughout, because that way you have that support or that data to show if the kids truly understand what's being taught. And if you wait, unfortunately, it might be a little too late to actually jump in and help support their needs, their to help fill those gaps that they might have in the knowledge. So almost the more often you do it, the better. And formative assessment does not have to be a 50 multiple choice test. It can be a question.
It
And
can
that's
be
the fun
one
thing. It can literally
question.
be one question. And you can use technology to do that. You can use so much to do that. And so that's
I
what I love about it.
That's really great. Yes, I know the word assessment. I'm seeing in the chat, and I brought Laura in for this because I know Laura. We want to shout out Laura. Did your kids already leave? Have they
They
already left?
did. They already
They
left.
already left. Well, we want to shout out specifically Laura's class of AP juniors at Waynesville High School. They are in her AP Language and Composition class. And we just want to shout them out because they are doing some incredible things with her. And she's going to show you that a little bit later. But formative assessment, I think the word assessment is triggering for a lot of educators. So in the chat, they said we like using the word feedback more. And I know Rachel and Laura and myself, we love student feedback. And I think it was interesting. I'm going to share this story. I'm not going to share his name publicly, but I did share this a little bit on TikTok and Instagram and with Rachel and Laura yesterday. But my cousin is an educator of like 22 or 23 years. And he and I had an educational argument the other day about where to place formative assessment and about teacher feedback of lessons, which he was very much about. And then I challenged him and said, well, what about the student feedback of your lesson? Are you gathering that? And if you aren't, why not? I love having those discussions because again, if we don't have the discussions or allow some of that discord, we aren't going to learn or move forward. So I think with anything we're doing, it's really important. Yes. So feedback is great. I love that word. I think we make formative assessment sound more complicated than it is, Laura. Do you agree with Rachel that it could be one question for formative assessment? It does not have to be 50 multiple choice at the end of a lesson. That just doesn't seem like it's going to do what it needs to do, right?
Right. It can even be a comic strip. I had students the first week of school so I could see what they remembered because I knew what their last unit was the previous year. And so we put it in comic strip form.
That's
And
amazing.
so their comic strip characters, stick people, didn't matter what they could draw, had to be able to have, hit the X, Y, or Z mark I was looking for. And it was super creative and super fun. And the kids liked it, but they were also like, this is harder than I thought.
Yeah. I mean, when you can find something that challenges them to really reflect, and then you can also assess really where they are and where you need to take them, it's a beautiful thing. Laura, we know that you are limited on time. Laura's students are going to be back really in about 16 minutes, and we want Laura to be able to talk to her collection. So Laura, to make this easier, Rachel has shared her screen, and Rachel is I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to mute Rachel, but we're going to kind of let you talk through your collections. Does that work for you?
That works for me.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
let's start
which
with.
one? Yep, you start. You go ahead and start.
All right, we're going to start with my scavenger hunt, Save the Immune scavenger hunt, which actually my daughter gave me the idea, but it's based on a video game. So I was looking up images that would capture kids because the more attractive you can make it with Wakelet. And I did notice in the chat, Alexander, yes, it was an Adobe idea I used because they had that template. So yes, yay, plug Adobe. So on this template, I don't know how many of you use or have ever used or participated in a goose chase, but Wakelet can do that for free. You don't have to pay for the goose chase or try to get one free goose chase. You can use this at any time. And it is also super flexible that students can get in on a collection you've created on any subject and do a scavenger hunt. And they can collect text where they, as a group, are writing. You can put them in little teams or partners, and they have to enter a text. I like to give different tasks. And within the tasks, as you can see, I give them a couple options. So it's kind of like a choice board like you would see on a goose chase, but they have to complete all 4 tasks. And you can make it fun where they have to do it in a certain time frame and then see who is the first group that gets it completed, which makes it super fun. And I try to hit different areas of creativity with each task, as well as different layers of complexity with each task. But because I want it fun, but it needs to be tied to it. So this one just happens to be over a novel that just happened to have zombies in it. So my daughter gave me the theme idea, because anytime you can tie a theme with your Wakelet, with your goose chase, your scavenger hunt, the better. And I love that we still have a video option, even though we're sad Microsoft Flip is not embedded like we could do before. I still love that you can do video options. I use video options for a formative assessment all the time, because I just want to know, what are they thinking, if I can see their thinking or hear their thinking. And so with a scavenger hunt, you can get really creative or not. I mean, even with math, it does not matter what you teach. You can make a scavenger hunt fun and easy to for you to look at and see, okay, we're on track, or no, we're not. I'm looking at some of the comments as they're coming in. Yeah, and then other students can also give feedback, because everybody has access to it, because we're all having to enter. Now, you could give everybody a different one at the same time so nobody can see other people's, but I just do one, and everybody's uploading and they're sharing and they're looking at other people's. So I think that is super fun. Okay, how am I doing on time? I am doing pretty good. And if I'm going too fast in the chat, just slow me down.
You're doing great, Rachel. I mean,
Okay,
Laura,
yeah,
and
Rachel,
Rachel's
you're
doing
doing
great. Yes,
Yes.
you guys are on point.
Okay. Now, if I'm going to start this one with reciprocal teaching, which is an older practice that has still research behind its effectiveness. And it's a really fun way, or can be, for you to break down maybe a difficult piece or a difficult set of problems or whatever you're working on, so that you're chunking it for students, and and it's group work, and who doesn't love group work? So I guess that's what I was focused on, is group work, because both my tasks kind of involve that I'm sharing today. So this week I did a reciprocal annotating, which I got, it's kind of like a treasure hunt, except, well, it kind of is. You are scavenging, which means they're going to have to go hunt for it or hunt to create it. So yeah, it is kind of like a scavenger hunt. Back to that one. Okay, losing track. Now back to the reciprocal annotating. If you're reciprocal teaching, you might give this group, they're covering this part of the problems or this part of the passage, and you're dividing it up so that no one is doing the entire thing. So on this, we had a passage that everybody read, and our comments are killing it. Y'all are awesome. Everybody read the passage and everybody annotated it. And then, yes, at their own pace. And then we came back together after everyone had finished reading they'd read all of it. And no, excuse me, they read their assigned section. So you can see I've grouped it into different lines that I segmented, and you kind of just ballpark that based on whatever you're working on, if it's problems or passages or whatever. I don't think a science experiment would work for this, but maybe some theory or other information. So they read only the lines they were assigned, and they had to annotate those lines only. So then as they did that, they're writing them on paper. they're discussing them as a group, and then they are one person from their group typed it into this Wakelet collection. And as everybody got theirs entered, then all the other groups were reading their annotations and looking at that part of the text and then annotating on their own paper as well. You could do this in a multiple different ways, but I was trying to stick with the theory of the reciprocal teaching, where they are just taking a chunk at a time. So each group had a different chunk. But then the kids did discover when we shared out our findings or our annotations that some questions they had did depend on other parts of the text. So it was fun because other groups could then answer, oh, well, in our section it did cover that. We can answer this part. Because part of annotating can be questions. Did you have a question? Do you know what this word means? And other students could answer that for them. So depending on the time you have, when I did the share out, they just picked like what they thought was the most significant piece that their group had come up with. So we weren't sharing everything out, but you could do that. It's so flexible, and Wakelet made it so easy. And I recommend not decorating your collection so much, because that way it's just a clean copy. Everybody can see the text. I mean, they had no trouble. Yes, and you could open up immersive reader here, because we're only going to be dealing with text, so students could get that extra support. That is true.
The comments are really great, and I'm not popping them on the screen, Laura, because I don't want it to cover your face. So I'm just going to be really
I
transparent.
do appreciate that.
Yes, the comments are really good, and
They
I
are.
love all of what they're saying. They're really understanding it, and I'm not really familiar with the reciprocal teaching, but I understand what it is. It's that, chunks at a time and not overwhelming those students, which I think then they've said it in the chat, personalize that learning. It's kind of help individualize that for students. They can do it at their own pace. You've essentially, with this one single collection, I feel like have so many instructional strategies here. So my question to you is, because I already know the answer, I see it, but I want to hear from you on this. How do you believe that doing this particular skill with students, because I heard you say so many words that made my brain light up. How do you believe that this skill is benefiting students as they are continuing on into college or their career?
Well, in your career and often in college, you do have to learn how to work with others. So they are starting that by working and having actual academic or professional conversations at each group, and you can group them however you want. This was the first time we did it, and we're still learning how to annotate. So I let them group at their own tables. So they were already comfortable with their groups to start with. But I'm all about shaking it up later, because you don't always get to, yeah, exactly. It's super fun. And they actually enjoyed it. Once they understood one person had to do this, we had some tasks, but everybody pulled their own weight, which you need to do in college, because we've all been in a group work where nobody's pulling their weight. So everybody had their own annotation they shared with the group. And then the group decided which ones were the important ones to put down. And then they decided which one was the important one to share. So we had lots of collegial discussion. They could be dissenting, but I gave them sentence stems so they would know how to approach properly if there was a disagreement in the group, which one class was a little more lively debate-wise than the other classes. They were like, oh, I agree. This is great. So
It's interesting that you're saying that, because you saw her collection. You're going to get the collection. We're going to send that out when the webinar is over. You'll get to see Laura's copy that she made with her students. And I think it's really important to note here that your collection, you said it, and I want to re-say it for everybody. And Alex Isaacs is like the best designer on collections and makes them look so, so good. And we want them to look good. But I also want to point out that your collection, like you said, you didn't want your students to get sidetracked, because Laura is also equally as creative as Alex. She actually challenged me years ago to take a creative minute break every day. But she has structured this collection really just bare bones because she wants her students to understand the strategy, the why. You're telling them why they're doing this. You're giving them the norms of that. And you're recognizing that it's a skill they're going to need to practice. It's not a one and done. So I think this collection is one of my favorite ones. And you haven't even like used generative AI to create the header, which is also cool. But sometimes the students do get sidetracked by that, and you have to kind of keep them focused. What advice do you have for those who may, like my cousin, we'll pretend like I have my cousin here who wanted to just do formative assessment at the end of his lesson, which I was like, well, that's a summative, but okay. What advice do you have for a teacher like my cousin who doesn't have a one-to-one? So the students don't have devices. They have a couple of computers in the classroom. I think there is, I think it's like 35 students a class, and he's just feeling overwhelmed. What advice do you have to those teachers who are struggling, and then formative assessment, and you say something like this and it just makes them want to shut their brains off?
Yeah. And this was a easy formative assessment if you all have devices.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that your cousin like pretend we don't have enough devices?
Yeah, pretend like you don't. How? Because I've been in that environment where I had one laptop in my classroom. So what would your advice be if there's only a couple of devices in the classroom? How do you do an activity like this in that environment?
Well, you can set it up as station rotation easily enough. And so one station you're reading, and the next station you're working in a group to annotate, and then the last station as they rotate through, which obviously they're going to need to only do a section because otherwise they might get started at the section where they're typing and they're like, oh, we haven't read anything yet. So they're not reading the whole piece, but you could still station it. Maybe there's 4 stations, so nobody starts off at the Wakelet station.
Right.
But it could be a station where they type group 3 in and put their response. So you would only have maybe one column. Or you would have a column for all the lines, and then they're still putting group 3. Here's our names, and here's our annotations. So you could do it that way just as easy as opposed to me just having one kid in each group log in. Because literally I had 5 groups, so I only needed 5 Chromebooks. So
Right.
So it could be done pretty easy.
That's amazing. And that's great advice. I think it is easy. I've said this before, and I talk a lot about it with the trainers. It's easy to get in the discussion and focus on the struggles. But being solution driven, I think, is really important when you're trying to do things like this. Laura, that's amazing. Your collections were amazing, and we've ended earlier than we expected. So is there anything else you want to share before you go back to all these amazing students?
Well, the tool can do anything you need it to do, even if it's not designed. Always think about possibilities because there's so many possibilities with Wakelet. It is so flexible. Also, on this collection, in my actual collections for my class, I didn't even put a picture in the header. It is completely blank. I only did for this one so I'd remember which one was the one for the demo that didn't have student names on it. But those are actual student responses. So.
Yes, and we will note that she made a copy of that collection where students were responding, and when she made a copy of that to share with all of you, which, yes, I already see it in the chat, you will get her collections, you'll get all the resources. You'll notice that the student names are not there. So we do take student privacy really seriously, and you're not going to see any of those names. Laura, of course, is seeing them because they are her students.
Yes. And I see one question, how can you apply it for large classes? Well, it depends on your idea of large. But I had 33 students and 32 students and 30 students. Those were the 3 classes. So for a regular American classroom, that is considered large just for high school. Not a 200 lecture class, but.
Right. Absolutely. Laura, it's always a pleasure. I kind of don't want you to go, but I know you're in the trenches. Let us know if there's anything we can help you with. We're going to share out your contact information, your Wakelet profile, your Twitter account, and your 2 examples so that our attendees can see those. And thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join Rachel and I. We appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I love all you in the chat. Thank you. Have a fab day, you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Rachel, it is just the two of us now. And do you have anything you want to add to anything that Laura shared just now?
Well, I'm going to take a step back to AI because I always like to give this fun fact, and I learned it in my lovely coursework. But Tisha, do you have any idea when AI actually started?
Okay, I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna say in this, I want to say the 70s or 80s, but I'm gonna say out loud the 80s or 90s because I feel like I might be wrong with the
You're
70s.
actually very close. 1980
Yeah, see,
is
I knew there
when
was a
artificial
cusp.
intelligence kind of became more available to people. And so
Absolutely.
that's always a fun fact to give people because, as you mentioned, it has been around a while, and people may have just not realized they were using it, like in email, where it would give the suggestion, or even in text,
Yes.
of what to say next.
Yes.
AI.
Yeah.
But no, what she did is amazing. As she showed, it's not, you don't have to make it look pretty. It's just getting them in, letting the kids dive in there and using the power of Wakelet to break up assignments, get that feedback from them, see what they thought was important in each of the sections, to be like, "Ooh, you may have missed something, sweetie,"
Yeah.
or let's kind of redirect you into something else. So
Yeah, I think, I always talk about this, but intentional planning when you're putting together a lesson or a unit, or, if I always would plan the end of the year. What did I want my students to know when they left my classroom? And I would plan backwards. But I think it's really important to be mindful of where are you placing those formative assessments, because that matters. Being recently diagnosed with ADHD, Rachel, if I was in your class, I can confidently tell you now, if you were my teacher, I would be sitting at the front because I'm accommodating for myself, but I would also know that I would probably need a formative assessment very early on, because it kind of keeps me accountable, right, for listening and learning and engaging. And I think it's interesting. We all know our students best, and that's why getting to know them and how they operate and how their brains work is so important. But we could talk about this topic all day. You have some incredible shares,
I
and I'm
do.
ready for you to showcase with our audience what you have to share. I'm going to mute myself, and I am going to pop some things on the screen just so that you can see them as they come in. Okay.
Sure. So one of my main roles, I have been out of the classroom for the past 5 years, is, as I said at the very beginning, I help make sure that I'm just reading the fun part. Yep, it's fun. One of my main jobs is to essentially help our teachers understand the various platforms we have access to in our district, make sure that they get whatever tools that they need. And Wakelet allows me to pull all those fun tools together in one place so they don't have to go hunting. And so one of my collections is Ed Puzzle. As you guys know, Ed Puzzle is one of the apps that does integrate within Wakelet, and just kind of giving a preview with App Smash in the sense of what that event coming up later. But what I do with Ed Puzzle, or what I do with my collections, is I'm someone that's very neat. I like my columns. I can't wait for sections to come out, but I do like to have everything separated. And so what I did with this one is I pulled online courses and pulled the direct links to them to give my teachers easy access. So I don't have to direct them to be like, oh, we'll just go to this website, or go to this website, or go to this website. It's more of, hey, if this wasn't enough, or if you want more of a deep dive and learn from very passionate Ed Puzzle people like Manny Curell, go through these courses. And plus you get a fun badge at the end. But go through and actually spend the 30 minutes. It's not all one time. You could go in, like come in and leave, all that good stuff, but it's there for you. The next one is I just linked the social medias just so that if they want to be able to follow or like or do all that fun social media stuff, I have it again there so that it's again in one spot. So I'm not sending my teachers in a million spots or sending them, telling them every which way. Then I went to their Ed Puzzle Twitter, X, Twix, whatever you want to call it, to their account, and I saw that they do have an event coming up. So I pulled that tweet directly into this collection. And that's what Wakelet allows me to do. If there's something that's going on that's current, you can easily add it to an existing collection and update it without having to spend so much time trying to remember where you created that Wakelet or where you did stuff or anything like that. It's just real quick. So I grab that tweet, I add it to the event to just say, hey, here you go. If you want to register for this event, and again, meet some amazing people from Ed Puzzle, there's that. The one thing I did not put on here, but it is in my other collections, is I also do walkthrough videos. I like to use the various screen capture tools that are out there, Screencastify, ScreenPal, Loom, and I create videos on my end based on what my staff has requested, and I tend to put those here. So speaking of that, I'm going to pull my next one, which is Studies Weekly. Studies Weekly is one of our curriculums that we use in our district for K through 5. And so one of the things I did on this collection is I create videos from the teacher side and the student side. Because as we know, there's certain platforms that look very different depending on how you're accessing them. And sometimes teachers have no idea what the other side looks like. Or for example, with this curriculum, there's a way to join or to earn coins. There's ways to like complete different tasks. And so the teachers might think they're off task because it looks gamified, but they're actually doing something within the curriculum and they're earning points or coins to be able to turn that into a reward or to hit a certain level of rewards. And so with this particular thing, I did do teacher sides. I did walk them through a couple of different aspects of the teacher side, what the grading side looks like, how to even access the platform. That's what the first one is, how to actually access it. We used Clever last year. This year, we're a ClassLink district. So how to click through it, where to go for it, what do the icons look like? And then, like I said, the teacher side, the student side, and then the social media again. I like to be able to pull my teachers over into social media and show them that it's a way to stay up to date. It's one of the ways I stay up to date with the various platforms and connect to so many educational ed tech leaders across the world, is just go like them. Because sometimes they also do fun drawings throughout the year, and sometimes they'll even pay your lovely, they do Amazon wish list. So that is my lovely Studies Weekly collection. And then another platform that we have is Progress Learning. Very similar to my Studies Weekly, to where as it comes up, my junior high uses this. But again, I show them what the student dashboard looks like. I show them how to schedule live trainings so that if they want to be able to schedule their own training, they can actually go in and do that. And then again, I always start with where to start is my first item. So how do I even start? So this particular one talks about how how to just get started. There's a video again of me talking. My staff hears me talking a lot. And then again, the student dashboard side. So one of my favorite collections I actually built for my class, and I believe for even the trainer course, was actually assessments using technology. And so, yes, Ambassador is so much fun. And they made some changes to Ambassador, so you don't have to wait as long, which is great. So with this one, again, this one I didn't do the columns. I just did the traditional Wakelet setting, but I did start with a YouTube video about formative assessment. And it kind of talks about what the key aspects of formative assessment and what makes a formative assessment different than an informal assessment. I also pulled the ISTE standards that come over when it comes to utilizing technology and even using assessment data when it comes to it, because ISTE standards are pretty powerful when it comes to sometimes justifying why we do what we do in ed tech. And then I also have the TPAC model. The TPAC is one of my favorite things to refer back to. It's very similar to SAMR, SAMR. Very similar aspects, but it's one of those that I just lean more towards TPAC because I love the color. I love the colors and showing how they all integrate together, and how if you can have technology or technological pedagogical, what that word is, a tongue twist, and then content knowledge, that you're in the center of all of this. But sometimes it does take time. And then I did have an Ed Puzzle activity that involved formal and informal. So I did pull that over and use that integration over into this. And then this is my little video that I made kind of discussing formal assessment versus informal assessment. So I have loved Ed Puzzle for many, many years. Oh, my screen just went black on me for some reason. I love Ed Puzzle for so many, many years, and it's been fun on this journey of now officially becoming a trainer for them, because it comes with ease. It's a lot. It just makes it so much easier to pull everything together, to update everything, and then of course with all the integrations they have with the different apps that are out there is pretty amazing. Yes, the organization really does help. It helps my lovely happy brain. That's why I do like the column side. I like the headers, being able to put it there so that teachers can see where they want to go. That's what, again, sections. I'm just so excited. I can't wait until they truly release that out to everybody, because I'm also a section person. I like those.
You'll be happy, Rachel, because as you were talking, I was just asking Rick to add you to the sections group. So when this webinar is over, you can test it out for us, and that way we can fix all the bugs before it goes to full release. It is going to be really good. The organization is amazing. I just want to hit on this, Rachel, because you talked about TPAC and you talked about SAMR. I went ahead and put TPAC in there in the chat for those who aren't sure what that stands for: technology, pedagogy, content knowledge. Do you remember off the top of your head all of the SAMR acronym words?
Jeez. Substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition.
Yes. It's funny. I use that one. Our districts here in this area use SAMR a lot, but you're right. TPAC is research based, like Laura was saying. So that one is a better one to lean on, but it's good to know both, because there are more tech integration models out there. So if you don't like the ones that Rachel and I are talking about, go research, find one that actually works for you. Go ahead, Rachel. I just had to come in and give you the good news.
Yay, I love that good news. So that's the fun thing, guys, is if you, I know everyone in here is with the community, but as you kind of move your way around or use the Wakelet platform, you do get to get some of those fun perks as to testing things out and giving them live feedback as to what works and what doesn't work. So I'm excited to be put on that list, because I'm very much an organization person. As you can see, my office is very labeled. It's kind of crazy, but that's just how I am. But no, I love the use of it. I love it. And the fact that I can share this with my staff. And if I make any changes, I don't have to, thank you. I don't have to resend them the link. And that's one of the powerful things about Wakelet, is as long as they have that link or they follow you, they can see that lovely fun thing, or they can see the live updates. I'm someone that does do spaces. I know I don't have many right here, but I do spaces. So if you do go to my profile, you won't see the training materials, unfortunately. But the great thing is with Wakelet, you can share your whole space if you want to. I'm someone that likes to individually share my collections, though, because Progress Learning, for example, is only at our junior high. Studies Weekly is only at our elementary. And I haven't split that up quite yet to do just elementary, just secondary. So eventually it will get out there to where I take organization to a next level. But we'll see. Not there quite yet, but it is going there. And then Tech Tuesdays will be coming soon, to where that is my goal this year, where I focus on one particular app or one particular concept like AI, and then have a specific collection that gets shared on a Tuesday with my lovely staff. So Tisha, let's kind of bring you back on, and let's hit me with some questions that you might have.
It gets weird when you start talking to yourself, right? It's like where
sometimes, well, and then I see chat, and unfortunately movement also makes me go like, oh,
Yeah.
what are they saying now?
I know it is.
Good.
It's funny. It is a lot to kind of manage. I don't know. My ADHD talents, super talents, actually come into play for these webinars because I can do that. So my question for you is, first of all, everybody is inspired by everything you're sharing, so that's really cool. And you're all going to have the collection. I'm going to share it very soon, but we want to keep hearing from Rachel. So I want to know how do you believe, because we've kind of talked about this, but I want to come back to this and I want you to reiterate the best times to implement formative assessment are when?
Honestly, throughout the session, throughout your lesson. So like, I'm someone who loves bell ringers because the purpose of a bell ringer is either to preview what you're about to teach or review what you just taught possibly the previous day. So I know some people call it a spiral or a sprinkle. So you kind of either sprinkling the knowledge or you're spiraling backwards. So it's one of those two things. So beginning's great after you introduce something or a concept. So I was a math person or a math teacher when I was in the classroom. So after maybe doing notes, doing a quick like, hey, did you guys actually pay attention during those notes? Let's just see where we're at. Let's see where comfortability is before, yes, they do, before they go on to actually doing independent practice. And then again, doing an exit ticket or something at the end to be like, did this lesson stick?
It's so interesting that you said that, because I think my brain, y'all, I think sometimes people should study my brain because even I don't understand it. But as you were talking, I was getting this imagery in my head. And I was thinking, when you go to the movies, you go to the movie theater and you have the previews, right? You have the commercials in a sense, they're getting you ready, go get your popcorn and your drink. Then you have the previews for the movie. Now, I don't know if you guys know about, I bet Rachel does, but we have something down here called Alamo Draft House. And it is a unique movie theater experience. But Rachel, have you been before?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you know what I'm about to say. Let's pretend like we're going to go see the Barbie movie at Alamo Draft House. And what they strategically do at this movie theater is they will gather and curate all of the movies that are about dolls. So even the ones that might scare you, but they've got them all together and they are playing these clips of movies about dolls to essentially get you ready for the Barbie movie, right? Yeah. And then after a movie, you see the credits, and then sometimes you'll see those little sneak peeks of the next movie that's going to come out that they're already working on. So I think it's really interesting when you think of it like that. Our students are used to that. Mm-hmm. And so missing those moments, I think sometimes can be really big. And again, I speak from experience now that I'm reflecting on my own learning journey with ADHD. Mm-hmm. There were lots of times that I needed an intro that was more relatable, especially if I was in a chemistry class, because chemistry and I do not understand each other. So
I'm glad you actually said that, because I had my mentor teacher at my previous school district. She equated this, and the way I'm going to explain it, yes, it works perfect with what you just said. And no, Tish and I did not plan this ahead of time. No. She said, think of a movie, just any movie you just saw. Okay. How much can you truly remember of what you just saw? Maybe 50-60%, right?
Yes. Yes.
The second time you see it, you're starting to pick up on more stuff. The third time you see it, you're picking up on more. And by the fourth time, you're able to maybe start quoting. So the more times our kids see the content, the more times they see what's being taught throughout your year, the more they're going to pick up. And so from that was one thing I did when I was in my classroom. I taught every state standard 4 times in the school year.
Alex is coming in saying he remembers quite a bit from Deadpool and Wolverine after one viewing.
Okay, that was a memorable movie, Alex. I mean, that I could not stop laughing during that movie, starting with the very first scene. But I bet you if you go back and watch it, Alex, there's going to be more.
You'll find more. So this explains, Rachel, this will explain to you how my brain works and why I need things so repetitive. Again, I am just speaking from my own experience with ADHD being diagnosed recently, right? I went and saw, Alex is going to give me a lot of heat for this, I already know, so I'm ready for it. But I went and saw Titanic in the movie theater 7 times when it came out in the 90s. 7. Yes, you heard me right. because I know that I've missed the majority of it the first time because I was sidetracked by something. Could have been the lighting on the wall at the movie theater, maybe my popcorn spilled. So I went and saw it 7 times. And when you say that, I now understand why I need things so repetitive. And you're absolutely right. A lot of times as educators, because we know the content, we are experts at that content, we forget that it is brand new to the people we're teaching, and we have to repeat it over and over and over and weave it into all kinds of things constantly, right? That's the art of teaching. So I'm glad you said that. Alex he's an outlier, so I'm not surprised that he could probably give you a synopsis of it right now. Yeah, I told you he's ready. He's ready to give me a hard time about that. He's going to say something like, Tisha, you know how this goes. It's a piece of history. Like, why did you need to see it 7 times?
But see, what you point out, though, is some of our students need that. And that's why we're talking about the formative assessment and the feedback is it has to be constant so that you know what students to talk to or target, because I know I'm someone, and it's funny because when I work with my staff, they're like, Rachel, I know you've taught us this. And I smile, I say, but guys, please remember, you have to hear something at minimum 7 times. I've heard the statistic has gone up to 20 times because of what this fun device has done to us. Mm-hmm. But you have to hear it so many times before it truly sticks. And you have to be able to apply it too. And so it's giving that grace to both our students and our staff that you might not get the first time, but maybe the 3rd time I do a feedback or assessment or something, I should start seeing that growth. I should start seeing that application, which is why it's important to do it throughout.
Yes, because the application piece is also something that I know about myself. We'll just say James is teaching me something new in the Wakelet platform. I can hear it and I can watch him demo it. And then I'm gonna have to go practice it. And then I'm gonna bring all my questions back. And it's going to be that repetitive learning process over and over and over and over. And yeah, I think, the phones, this is a whole topic. If you want to know more about how I feel about phones, you can go watch my TikTok. Because I know that there's a lot of debates out there about phone usage and students. But I think that as teachers, again, I'll say it, you are the artist in your classroom. And so it's up to you to lead and structure and model and mold those students and guide them. Because a lot of times, like me, Rachel, I didn't know all of this about myself when I was in 4th grade or 11th grade, or even in college, and even in my master's program, dare I say. So I think it's really important to continue having these conversations. Yes, you have been an inspiration with a lot of great insight into all of your shares. Let's see if I have one more question for you, Rachel. I think I might have one. We'll see. Or not. My dog.
Well, why don't you share my screen so we can talk about this fun event that's coming up?
Let's do it.
Guys, if you haven't registered yet, that App Smash Festival is coming up in a couple of weeks. And I know I attended various sessions last year because it goes nonstop. But registration is live. It is part of this collection. Real quick registration, but it really is awesome. And those are all the apps that they're going to talk about and how they integrate within Wakelet. So
it's going to be good. It's one of my favorite events of the entire year because you get to really see. And I'm working on a little special webinar. So for Tuesday night, which is going to be a whole different time frame, but I'm working on that as a little surprise because we always like to know why. Why is app smashing great, right? We talk about app smashing and we tell you should do it, but I don't know how often we've gone over the why and the pedagogy and the instructional strategies of app smashing together. So I'm working on something for that. So you will be able to see the replay if you miss it. It's not officially scheduled yet. I have to get people to agree, right? So I have to go sell my idea. But the App Smash Festival, September the 25th and the 26th, you're going to hear from so many people like Alex Isaacs, who's going to be helping with one. I know I saw Frankie in the chat. She is helping with one of those. I'll be hosting a couple of those. You want to join, and you always know that there's going to be a replay. I will say that again. Wakelet is cognizant of the fact that you are busy during the day and you can't always be there live. So we are going to make sure those replays are available. That is essentially your call to action for this webinar. I have put the resource collection in the chat. I'm going to put it in there one more time so that you have Rachel and Laura's collections and examples and contact information. It has their Wakelet profiles. Rachel, if you refresh that, I have added both of your Wakelet profiles. And then I am going to go ahead and pop the session certificate into the chat for you so that you can get that filled out. And now you can go follow Rachel and Laura, and you have their collections, even if they're not showcased on their main profile. And really your call to action is go sign up for the App Smash Festival. Rachel, it has been a pleasure hosting you and Laura. This is one of my favorite webinars. You guys had some great strategies for really everybody, not just our community, but everybody. Go follow them. They'll continue to share. Rachel, what last parting words do you have for our attendees?
I don't know. One of the big things my little tip I always tell people is focus on one thing. So take maybe one thing that we shared today, because that one thing can turn into a very powerful thing, but just start with one and then it grows from there.
Absolutely. That's a great way to end. I have enjoyed being with all of you and having this discussion. Make sure you follow Wakelet on all the channels, all social medias, LinkedIn, YouTube, and sign up for that App Smash Festival. And we will see you all then. Thanks, Rachel. I hope you all have a great day.
Trisha.
Bye.